How about you sit down and then just raise your hand? And
You sit down.
Yeah.
You raise your hand.
turn.
After this gentleman spoke,
Take
you
your
used to
turn.
you address the question. That's exactly the way in which we set
So
it.
how about you listen to what I have to say?
No, how about you wait your
You
turn?
want to
Take
open
a
free
seat,
speech,
sir. We'll
right?
be with you after this gentleman sits down
You
on
want to
first.
open free speech, right?
Yeah,
Let's
No.
open free speech.
That
I'm
is
here.
allowing
Take a
everyone to
turn.
speak, not
I'm
just
here.
yourself. Take a seat, take this gentleman's question, then we'll go to you.
Sounds like you'll be second. I think that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Cool, second is fine. Yeah.
All right.
I'll just
Those of us,
and then I'll be first, okay?
those of us who favor free speech have the smartest, most articulate people on our side, as we can see. Yet, we have been on the losing side, both on college campuses regarding free speech and in the country regarding political power. Why?
Very good point. Right, now we'll take this gentleman here. You did take a seat.
I don't need a microphone, but thank you. So how do you expect to embody an identity you've never lived in? Now, Camille, as a black man, you have identified with being a black man for most of your life, but how do you de-racialize yourself when you've seen the numbers? You know that, I hope that you know, that in the state of New Jersey, black people make up about 12% of the population, yet there's a 12-to-1 ratio for blacks to whites in prisons. Brian,
35% of black people make up the prison system, but continue it.
Brian, how do you really say that the left and the right are both equal, but Trumpism started out with Trump saying that all Mexicans are rapists and need to leave this country? So I'm not understanding how you want to disidentify us when our identities are what kind of make us now. Us being black men, we are targeted because of the color of our skin. We're not saying that our blackness has us share the same ideologies. We disagree now on politics and liberalism. I can tell, I've seen some of your interviews. Phenomenal speaker, but we differ greatly with our ideologies. And that's not because I'm black and you're white, we're both black men. How do we stand with this making college campuses unsafe spaces? How can any of you, how can anybody in this room truly be fine with becoming an unsafe space? The notion of unsafe should not enter anybody's mind.
Thank you very much.
Again,
At this point,
I'm going to continue, but thank you.
No,
but
actually, you're not running this meeting, so I'm going to take
But
some
I'm here
questions. Who else
to
wants
make
to
free
speak?
speech.
I would
I
love to
really,
speak.
I don't, we'll have one over here, yes.
All
Exactly
right.
how this is working. Can we get a
So-
microphone to this, please?
My comment is based off of, no, it's not, thank you. I won't shut you down, thanks. Yeah, I don't need it. I think I'm loud. So you talked about like identity movements and, okay, so then like America is based off, like it's built off the backbone of slaves, correct? Like this country is the entire, like everyone has their own identity. The fact that we have Columbus Day is because other white people felt the need to have their own identity. The reason that people are so mad at alternative, like affirmative action is because white people see, like, example, let's say the Kennedys, right? More white women benefit from affirmative action than black women, than any black people in this entire country. But a black child who has the same grade, GPA, SAT scores as another white child will then be looked at if he gets picked into a school and they'll say it's affirmative action. But no one says anything about the 60% of students that have a guaranteed spot to go to that school because their parents went there. It's like everyone has their own identity. And the best way that people benefit from it is having other people as the other. When there's an other people benefit. So we can't sit here and pretend that like if we throw away all our identities, it'll make a difference. Like I'm Pentecostal, I'm Haitian, my parents are immigrants, but I still have to identify with the fact that I am a black woman living in America and I have certain privileges for the fact that like I am a straight black woman in America. I do not face the same consequences that cisgender women in this country face. I do not feel like the same pain that other people, like Muslim women in this country feel because I am Pentecostal. You have no right, if you are not a part of that religion, to look at someone else and tell them that they are oppressed. It is not your place to tell someone that they are in their own religion, that they are oppressed, especially when you don't believe in it.
Thank you very much. Point well made. If there's no one else have any more?
Got a hand back there.
So let's bring it, we've had quite, there's one there, just one. Yes. Right.
I guess my question is, how come you say it's not about intersectionality or about emotions and how they feel about things, almost is like telling someone to ignore their life experiences, because ultimately that's what they're experiencing every single day in that body, in that color of skin, in that gender, in that sexuality, hue. Regardless, actually not necessarily every identity is visible, but in terms of people who have visible identity, it's very hard to tell them or expect them to erase that identity or separate that from the way that they view certain politics or experiences, because honestly, like, that's like telling someone that they didn't experience what they experienced. Like, I experienced racism today, and it was based strictly on my race. Like, I can't sit tomorrow and say, oh, okay, well, racism is a problem, but, like, I'm saying it's not because I'm black. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it's very hard to separate identity from politics when people are forcibly within their identities.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to come back out, guys, because right now, there's plenty of to bring back on panelists. Responsibility community
It's very challenging to have a conversation like this. There's a lot of threads that have been opened, and I'll try to be both succinct and to broadly responsive to the things that have been raised here. I think one of the fundamental challenges that we have in this country is that while we all agree on the value of free speech in a very metaphysical sense, we talk about it in the same high-sounding language. We don't mean the same thing when we talk about free speech. I don't know that most of us really have an appreciation for what speech protections are for and what they ought to be accomplishing. The notion that, for example, hate speech is not free speech is wrong. Hate speech is, in fact, protected speech. In fact, hate speech, legally speaking, is not a thing in the United States of America. It's not a category of thing. It is, in fact, incredibly difficult to get people to agree on what hate speech is. And I think this is an important distinction to make, because for so many years in this country, and I'm pointing to the 1960s in particular, speech protections were used by minority groups who were fighting for civil rights, and it was essential for them to be able to secure those rights in order to advocate. The reason why Martin Luther King, for example, wrote his letter from a Birmingham jail, is because he was imprisoned for effectively violating speech codes, handing out flyers in the wrong spot, all of these various things. I think this is something that we don't necessarily understand.
Black Lives Matter.
This is interesting. Let's give them a second. Has anyone disagreed with that? Has anyone disagreed with that principle? Have you ever gone someplace and had someone scream Black Lives Matter and had someone respond that that's not true?
Yes, quite a few times. Yes.
They said that's not true?
Yes.
Well, guess what? None of those.
Nobody here.
None of those. Well, hold on a second. No. No one. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Can I finish?
Yeah, like for real.
My-
I am with everyone trying to respect freedom of speech. There are some people here. This is an opportunity for us to really educate ourselves on what's going on in reality. And I'm going to let the panelists speak, but after the panelists speak, there is something that I need to say, because when we talk about identity, we need to understand that this country was formed off of creating whiteness and separating blackness. So we can't separate. No. We cannot separate our identity.
This isn't the. You just.
This is what's going to happen. Camille's going to finish his point. We're going to go down the panel.
We're gonna come
and then
back.
we're coming back out.
We're gonna come back.
History. I think that the news is saying my people are dying. I don't need statistics.
Do facts matter? Do facts matter? Do facts matter?
Oi, hey, this is how this works. If people shout, no one.
So we'll continue.
Who controls the facts? It's the system. It's the institution. Don't tell me about facts. I don't need no facts to tell me that I'm in a state of oppression because of the state. And I don't need no Republican or no Democrat to help me for my freedom. Because if it was Hillary Clinton in office, massive amounts of incarceration will happen. It is capitalism. Why our people
Okay, that's a whole nother topic. Now, how about this at this point? we let Camille finish his point,
Can I respond?
we go down the panel, and then we come back out. The more you shout, the less everyone in this room has an opportunity to make their point and to listen to everyone else.
That's fine. It's not good. I like what he said.
I like what he was saying. If he put his hand up.
He's good.
Colonialism. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's colonialism. It's the fact that you have one group of people control over another group of people. That's what it was. It has nothing to do with anything y'all saying up there. Because
Right.
what I heard was this constant thing of let's focus on the reaction that happened. Thank you, sir. I agree with that. I'm done.
Thank you. Good.
I do think, you know, I wonder about the specific point that I've made that one might dispute, like with respect to the data on police shootings, for example. And I wonder about that because it seems odd to me for one to invest themselves in a concept that they agree has been contrived and invented, right? Like, I suspect most of the people here would not be particularly excited if Richard Spencer was to walk into the room. And you might not really want him to come here and talk, because were he to talk about race, he would talk about the fact that it's a source of pride, the fact that he believes it's a source of power, the fact that he believes that his race is beautiful. The fact that one can make those claims about whiteness and one can immediately recognize just how retrograde and backwards it is to talk about race in that way. And that one can make the same claims about some other race and not recognize how retrograde those ideas are. What's retrograde isn't the embrace of whiteness, it's the embrace of race. I care about the things that you care about. There is not a person in this room that thinks people should be dying unnecessarily. I care about mass incarceration. I think it's deeply problematic. But I also know that if the United States of America were to release every brown and black person from prison today, federal and state, can I finish my point? Can I finish my point?
We're not even one panelist down here. We're gonna go.
Friday, if they were to release them all, the United States would still be, and I've made this point in a room full of conservative leaders, making it important for them to get it, that if they were to all be released from jail, the United States would still be 5th or 6th in the world in terms of its rate of incarceration. That's problematic. If we want to fix this problem, talking about it narrowly in terms of race is not going to help us get to solutions. We've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now, while Black Lives Matter has been very active since Ferguson. Talk to me about the federal reforms that have been achieved. There aren't any. That's problematic. I want to fix these problems too. My concern is that disrupting conversations like this makes it harder for us to solve those problems. Thank you.